Tonight on CTV News, a BC man killed in the Banff rockslide.
He still tried to save me. He did scream out loud, telling me to run, run, run.
A day of hiking for two Surrey friends ended in tragedy. The harrowing account from the man who narrowly escaped being crushed.
Canada never really viewed this as a Canadian tragedy. It never really got into the psyche of Canadians, and then our politicians basically ignored it for many years.
Remembering the victims of Canada's worst mass murder, the calls to make the Air India bombing part of the school curriculum.
We didn't know what was happening or how it started happening.
Brawling bears stopped traffic in Burnaby, an intense drama not usually played out in front of humans.
This is CTV News with me, Jung Lee.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a BC connection to last week's deadly rock slide in Banff National Park. Two close friends who came to Metro Vancouver in 2022 to earn their master's degrees were caught in the slide. One of them didn't make it out alive. Speaking from his hospital bed, the surviving man says he owes his life to his friend and roommate. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story.
This photo of Khaled El Gamal and Hamza Ben Hilal was taken the day before the close friends and roommates from Surrey set out to explore Bow Glacier in Banff National Park.
We were just enjoying the moment and the view, and we're having some snacks, and then we just heard that loud noise, and then shortly after, the rocks fell.
When the side of the cliff gave way last Thursday, sending rocks crashing onto the trail below, El Gamal, who works as a financial advisor in Port Moody, froze. It was his friend's voice that snapped him out of it.
He did scream out loud, telling me to run, 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 and that's kind of like what helped me get back on to my senses and start running, because I was like in a shock, and it seemed like a movie scene, just seeing rocks coming from the side there.
As El Gamal lost sight of Ben Hilal, falling rocks started hitting his legs.
I fell to the ground, and then all I remember is I did my head, I covered my head with my arms, and I just gave positioned my back towards the rocks, and just kept suffering the rock falls. Rock after another was hitting my back.
Somehow El Gamal survived and was able to walk off the trail to find help.
I kept telling them, my friend, where's my friend? Nobody was able to locate him. Nobody was able to see him. We did not know what happened until we heard the news that he was found under the rubble.
El Gamal is in a Calgary hospital with multiple broken bones. But the deeper pain is for the loss of his friend.
He was a very, very generous and a very nice person.
Ben Hilal worked as a network engineer in Burnaby. His brother is flying in to bring the 33-year-old's body back to his home country of Morocco.
We're hoping anybody would kind of like figure something out to compensate the family for their loss.
El Gamal says he owes his life to his friend's quick thinking.
If it wasn't for him, I would have just stood my ground there in shock, because I froze. I don't know, my mind just disengaged at that moment, and he screamed and told me to run, 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 and then I survived.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
40 years ago today, families began receiving the news that their loved ones had been on a doomed Air India flight. Hundreds of Canadians on that plane became the victims of the biggest mass murder our country has ever seen. And yet, many people aren't even aware of the tragedy today. Our Penny Daflos on why and the calls to keep the memory alive.
Half a world away, Irish villagers mourned alongside Canadian and Indian citizens drawn together by tragedy.
Most of us can only imagine the heartbreak.
It was in these waters the bodies were recovered 40 years ago after Air India Flight 182 left Montreal for Mumbai, only to be torn from the sky.
As a result of bombs being placed on planes in Vancouver, the plot was clearly planned in Canada, created in Canada, and carried out by Canadians.
268 of the victims were Canadian, the largest mass killing in our history.
The shock of losing your father and him not coming back, and you multiply that by 329 experiences on that flight.
The personal stories continue to break the heart.
I was 12 years old when my mother was murdered. Very traumatized, lots of grief as a result of this tragedy.
But there's also frustration all these years later.
There were mistakes made pre-bombing, the day of the bombing, the investigation afterwards, as well as with the criminal trial.
Charges weren't laid for 15 years. The trial took place in a fortified BC Supreme Court room after 2 potential witnesses were killed. Ajay Singh Bangri and Ripudaman Singh Malik were charged and acquitted. Malik was gunned down a few years ago in Surrey, and only Indrajit Singh Rayat served a few years in jail after admitting to being the bomb maker and lying under oath.
Whether we'll ever see justice in the system does not seem apparent.
The lack of accountability and horrific death toll are seared into the hearts of many. But an Angus Reid survey found a third of Canadians had never heard of the bombing.
We asked people, do you think that this has been owned or really embraced as a Canadian incident, as a Canadian tragedy? 50% say no.
There are a handful of memorials, including Stanley Park, but academics now find themselves gathering artifacts.
When I tried to teach it, I soon realized that my students, Canadian students, did not know about this Canadian history.
There's never been a public exhibit on the Air India bombings in a museum or a gallery space.
BC's Ministry of Education says it's up to school boards and teachers. The frustration reaches much higher.
The Prime Minister has not attended any events.
There is acknowledgement change is needed.
We need to do a much better job in educating Canadians and the world of the impact of the worst terrorist attack involving Canadians.
A third of the passengers were children. Penny Daflos, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to breaking news now, a major update in the conflict between Israel and Iran. U.S. President Donald Trump claims the 2 sides have agreed to a complete and total ceasefire. In a post on Truth Social, Trump says that this will start in just a few hours and it will be done in phases. The president goes on to add that in 24 hours, the war will officially come to an end. The ceasefire comes as Iran has followed through on its threat to retaliate after a U.S. airstrike destroyed 3 nuclear facilities. In what's being called a symbolic response, missiles were fired at a U.S. military base in Qatar. Terrifying scenes shared widely on social media showing the moment missiles lit up the night sky over Doha. Iranian state TV reporting that the missiles targeted the Al Udeid U.S. air base visited by Donald Trump just last month. Qatar says its air defenses managed to intercept Iranian missiles, and the Pentagon says no casualties have been reported.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Iran says the strike was proportionate retaliation for the U.S. bombing over the weekend. As the U.S. bases brace for more, the administration insists it's not at war with Iran, but with its nuclear program, while still leaving room for some kind of diplomatic resolution. As tensions escalate, Ottawa has started helping Canadians get out of Israel. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says 55 Canadians were taken by government-arranged buses from Tel Aviv to Jordan, and 7 more from the West Bank. Buses in Turkey also picked up some Canadians near the Iran border. Meanwhile, a Simon Fraser University professor stuck in Iran says communication with Canadian officials has been difficult and there's no clear plan to help him. Iranian airspace is closed in the wake of attacks, but Global Affairs Canada says land crossings into Turkey, Armenia, and Azerbaijan are possible options. A teenager has been sent to hospital in Surrey after he was hit by a driver who then took off. It happened near Holland Park just after 10 p.m. Sunday night. A 14-year-old boy was taken to hospital with injuries to his head. Police say his injuries are considered non-life-threatening and appear to be isolated to short-term head trauma. Hours later, the driver was found and arrested for both impaired driving and failing to remain at the scene of a collision. Charges have yet to be laid. The crash happened after the annual Halal Food Fest at Holland Park.
While it appears that the boy may have attended the food festival there, it does not appear to have any connection at all to the festival itself. There were a lot of people at the festival. The festival had just stopped or closed down not that long before 10 o'clock, and there were a lot of pedestrians in the area at the time.
Police are asking for anyone with dash cam video or any witnesses to come forward. Colona General Hospital is entering its 5th week without a pediatric unit. And tonight, the calls for the health minister to visit Colona are growing louder. The local MLA says the minister should meet with healthcare workers. CTV's Angelina Ravelli has more on the ongoing closure and the uncertain future.
The closure of the pediatric unit in Colona General Hospital was set to last 6 weeks when Interior Health made the announcement back in May. But as that deadline nears, there is less clarity as to if that deadline will be met.
My confidence in the Minister of Health is diminishing by the day.
I think this is going to go on for a lot longer than the initial 6 weeks.
Health Minister Josie Osborne spoke with a media outlet Monday morning, and when asked about whether or not the unit will reopen at the 6-week mark, she didn't give a direct response, only explaining that the goal is to reopen as soon as they can. A statement from the Ministry of Health also stating the same message.
The inability of the minister to communicate a clear timeline is emblematic of the lack of a clear plan and the lack of a clear approach and the lack of clear leadership.
And the main concern with the ongoing closure remains evident.
This is about children. It's not about politics, and these are complicated problems, and they existed long before the NDP took government.
Castanet reporting just last Thursday, a 3-year-old Kelowna boy who broke his arm couldn't receive treatment at KGH due to the closure. Kamloops, Vernon, and Penticton were unable to take him, and it wasn't until 10 a.m. the next morning when the boy was taken via plane to Vancouver for proper treatment.
The uncertainty that every family in Colona and the broader catchment area of Interior Health is dealing with, we don't know if the medical system that we're paying for, that we rely on, is going to be there when we need it.
A town hall is being planned for July 2nd to discuss the healthcare crisis. The health minister has been invited to the event, but whether or not she'll be there is still unclear. Angelina Ravelli, CTV News, Vancouver.
A renowned U.S. clinician scientist is set to take the reins at UBC's Faculty of Medicine. She'll also serve as Vice President of Health, bringing global expertise to the role. Dr. Sharmila Anandasabapathy will join UBC in November after years of leadership at Baylor College of Medicine in Texas. Her work spans cancer detection, global health, and biomedical innovation. UBC leaders say her appointment will boost research and expand access to health care across BC, especially in rural, remote, and Indigenous communities. It's no secret that both extreme heat and wildfire smoke can be detrimental to your health. Now, new research from UBC shows what can happen when the two are combined. CTV's Ben Nesbitt has more.
Summer days with a hazy smoke hovering across Metro Vancouver while a stifling heat pounds down have become more common in recent years. Now experts are exploring what that means for our health.
There was a higher risk on those days that were both hot and smoky.
Dr. Sarah Henderson is a professor at UBC and a director at the BC Centre for Disease Control. She and her team examined more than 21,000 deaths outside of healthcare settings in the region during wildfire seasons from 2010 to 2022. Henderson says while it's no surprise the extreme heat and smoke combined was more dangerous, there were some discrepancies.
We found that the risk was higher on hot days than on smoky days.
With that being said, Henderson says wildfire smoke can be damaging at much lower concentrations than you would anticipate.
There's often a lot of focus on wildfire smoke on those days when the sky turns orange and everything smells like a campfire. But what we found was that there was risk on days where people might not even realize that it's a little bit smoky.
So how do we protect ourselves? Henderson says it's important to focus on the environment we do have control over. That's the inside of our homes.
So if you can keep one room of your home cool and as smoke-free as possible and spend time there when you need to, you will be protecting your health.
In the wake of the 2021 heat dome that led to the deaths of more than 600 British Columbians, both the province and multiple municipalities have added cooling rules, including Vancouver, where as of this year, all new buildings must have built-in air conditioning. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Vancouver.
Child exploitation is rising in Canada. The message from police as kids spend more time online this summer. Also ahead. An epic wrestling match between two black bears in the middle of a Burnaby street. We hear from witnesses to this wildlife tussle when CTV News at 6 continues. Stay with us. What looked like an intense fight brought traffic to a standstill in Burnaby over the weekend. The heated exchange wasn't between two people, but two black bears. And all of it was captured on camera. CTV's Sinjin Alexander has the story and the video.
We're not entirely sure what led them to Burnaby's Beaverbrook Crescent. We do know it's an unusual sight, especially this sort of behavior playing out right in the middle of the street. One seems to dominate, the other clicking its jaw, sounding rather displeased.
I didn't know what to think, so we didn't know what was happening or how it started happening.
Matthew Chow began recording, keeping his distance safely in a car, while the two black bears, not the least bit concerned they brought traffic to a halt, remained clearly focused on each other.
And some cars backed away. Some cars turned around and left.
But as the bears began snarling, growling, taking brief breaks to catch their breath, not a single person approached. No one honked their horn on Saturday afternoon. They knew they just had to let nature play itself out.
So the two bears were like fighting each other, and like it got intense at some points where they were like ripping each other's like fur out.
Black bear brawls are nothing new, but they don't usually fight in front of humans. Often it's a dispute over mating, dominance, or territory. And these showdowns are not always quick.
About an hour or so.
It went on for an hour?
Yeah.
So you guys couldn't go anywhere, could you?
No. We just stayed. It went by fast.
The incident was reported to conservation officers, and word spread that two large bears are in the neighborhood.
I go for walks every day by this area, by the creek, and I think it's going to scare me now for a while.
We're told this long battle eventually drew to an end, and the bears wandered back into the woods. Sinjin Alexander, CTV News, Burnaby.
Oh, wow. I'm glad the people were in their cars when they came across this.
And no one honked, no one disturbed them, just watched the show.
Yeah, really unusual. But it's not far from Burnaby Mountain, and there are lots of bears up there. We ran into one on the trail.
Yeah, my husband did too, biking. Yeah. So did they walk back into the park together? Did they make up? Are they friends now? I'm so curious.
There's got to be a sequel.
Yes, for sure. All right, let's take a look at our weather right now. We started off cloudy, but things cleared up quite nicely. We're looking at a mix of sun and cloud across the lower mainland right now. Here is a look at temperatures. 20 at the harbor, 22s in Burnaby and in North Vancouver, as well as in Abbotsford. You're looking at 23 degrees in Pitt Meadows and Chilliwack right now. So as we head through the overnight, we'll see a few clouds dropping down to 12, which is seasonal. Into tomorrow, we'll have a sunny start. It does cloud over through the afternoon with a high of 22.
CTV Weather brought to you by Expedia Cruises. Make the most of your next trip by booking with those who've been there. Visit expediacruises.ca.
Cloudier and cooler as we head into the next few days, but I know you're wondering about the Canada Day long weekend. It heats up. I've got those details coming up.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, Anne. An extreme bank robbery attempt in Toronto. Thieves using an excavator to try to get at the money. Also ahead.
She went down and she was screaming.
A Calgary woman was sent to hospital after being attacked by a bobcat. The mother and her kittens had been living under a deck for weeks. That's ahead on CTV News. Greenpeace joined the smattering of protests in Venice today against the upcoming wedding of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez. Demonstrators accusing Bezos and other billionaires of exploiting historic cities while contributing to the climate crisis. Some holding a giant banner reading, "If you can rent Venice for your wedding, you can pay more tax." A Calgary woman was sent to hospital after being attacked by a bobcat this morning. Neighbors say they've reported the animal before out of concern something like this could happen. A warning some may find the video disturbing. CTV's Jordan Canigan reports.
It was just after 10 o'clock Monday morning when neighbors say a bobcat attacked a woman walking her dog.
And then the bobcat ran. As soon as I opened the door, he ran towards the alley and he attacked the woman. She went down with her and she was screaming.
Police, paramedics, and fish and wildlife officers all responding to the southeast community of Parkland. The woman was sent to hospital with minor cuts and scratches.
Very, very unusual. In my years in the city of Calgary, the only time that we've had bobcats contact humans has been when they feel cornered or threatened.
Neighbors say the bobcat and her kittens have been living under a deck in the area for weeks. They called the city and Fish and Wildlife before, worried something like this would happen.
She's been hunting by herself, and then the kittens stay under the deck. And she comes back with something, drags it under the deck, and we've made noise and kind of banged around and tried to get them to leave, but they're not going in. She wasn't going anywhere.
Cages were brought out and officers tracked the animals. The mother and kittens made multiple trips across the street near where the attack happened.
It's very, very scary. Like, could it be me? I was going to walk my dog 15 minutes earlier, and I didn't, and that's when it all happened.
As of late Monday, the bobcat and kittens still hadn't been captured.
We have to balance out, our course of actions, whether we want to euthanize or live trap or just leave things as they are.
Well, that was scary. That sort of changed my mind about those bobcats.
It is not the kind of break-in you see every day. Thieves in Toronto tried to rob a bank using an excavator, but left behind a trail of destruction instead. Surveillance video shows the excavator driving through a plaza in the city's Scarborough neighborhood early this morning. The vehicle then smashes right through the roof of a Scotia bank. A U-Haul was also caught on camera pulling up to the scene, but police say the suspects took off before they were able to get their hands on any money. The ordeal leaving the owner of the plaza in shock.
It was like, is this for real? This is not a usual attempt of a break-in. I guess the excavator was stolen from a nearby construction site and driven into the property, and they attempted to access the automatic teller machines.
He says the would-be thieves left the heavy equipment behind. Engineers are still assessing the damage, which could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Police are warning about a dangerous trend in Surrey. Young people carrying fake weapons. Also ahead.
You have apps like Snapchat, Instagram. That is a way for people on the outside to directly connect with your kids.
More Canadian children are being exploited online. Calls for tougher laws to keep kids safe. That's ahead. 3 charges have been dropped in a sex crimes case involving a 34-year-old Alberta woman and several teenage boys, but the accused still faces other, more serious charges. Alexa Suter was initially scheduled to have a preliminary hearing this morning in a Calgary courtroom. Instead, she signed a peace bond agreeing to stay away from the complainants and one witness named in the case. In exchange, 3 charges of making sexually explicit material available to a child were withdrawn. She still faces charges of sexual interference, sexual assault, and making sexually explicit material available to a child. Even for criminal law experts, the case is unusual.
The victims are male and they're under the age of 16, makes it the rarity of the case. Compared to females under the age of 16, they experience much more sexual assaults. Now, what also makes this rare is that it was reported to the police. More often than not, this stuff happens and the victim never goes forward.
Suter is due back in court on August 15th to set a date for trial. Police in Greater Victoria are reminding parents to talk to their teens about predatory behavior online. Child exploitation offenses are rising in Canada, and with summer break upon, students have more time spent on their phones or playing video games. CTV's Yvonne Raymond has more on the timely messaging.
While students close their textbooks for summer break, cautionary reminders are out on the need to stay vigilant scrolling online.
A big reminder for children is to only speak to people you know and not to share any type of personal information with people you've never met and you can't validate their identity.
The newly formed Greater Victoria Integrated Child Exploitation Team has 70 local files on its desk this year.
We're dealing with a lot of child luring, a lot of possession and distribution of child pornography.
And the number of kids being tricked into seeing or taking part in online encounters of a sexual nature has been rising across Canada.
I'm surprised, it's growing and growing the number, but I think as a parents, we can do many things differently from home and try to protect them from these things.
When you have a smartphone in hand and you have apps like Snapchat, Instagram, what have you installed, that is a way for people on the outside to directly connect with your kids. And that is the source of a lot of the harm that we see that comes in through cybertip.ca.
Young people are encouraged to use privacy settings, turn off location services.
Doing reverse image search on a profile picture, and you can see that, oh, this has been recycled many times, or this is a celebrity, and therefore a good red flag that this account is fake. But again, that's a lot of thinking, critical thinking to put on the backs of, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And that's precisely the reason why so much harm is happening, because that's basically what the line of defense is currently.
The centre responsible for Canada's national cyber tip reporting line wants to see more technology-based regulations in the quest to keep kids safe. Yvonne Raymond, CTV News.
Surrey police are sounding the alarm over young people carrying fake weapons in public. In video posted on social media today, SPS say the trend of youth carrying airsoft guns, bear spray, and both real and fake knives in public is becoming more prevalent. Surrey police even say some pellet and airsoft guns can meet the legal definition of a firearm. Police want both young people and parents to know that carrying any kind of weapon can lead to serious criminal charges.
Many of these replica weapons are designed to look very real. It's very difficult for police to determine if these are real or not. When police respond to calls of weapons, we must treat them as if they are real weapons. This can lead to a very heavy police response and dangerous consequences.
Anyone who owns dangerous weapons, real or fake, is advised to store them safely and keep them out of reach of youth. Extreme heat is hitting Ontario and Quebec. Meanwhile, parts of BC get a blast of winter. Also ahead.
It asks for the card number, the ATM password, and the expiration date for the card and all that information. So I put it in. After I submit the information, the screen went blank.
How scammers are spoofing the CRA website. We hear from a woman who lost more than $26,000. What's Google doing about this? That's next. When we need to find a product or service, many of us just Google it, but you need to remember that criminals are spoofing websites. So the first one that pops up could be a scam. A woman was just defrauded out of $26,000 using a fake CRA website. The story right after Anne's forecast. But first, much of Ontario and southwestern Quebec are continuing to bake in high temperatures today as a heat dome lingers over the region. Environment Canada issued a heat warning for the area over the weekend, saying hot and humid conditions will likely continue until Wednesday. Humidex values are expected to linger between 42 and 46 degrees Celsius. The Toronto District School Board is warning of uncomfortable conditions in schools due to the extreme heat, advising students to wear light clothing, hats, sunscreen, and drink lots of water. While eastern Canada bakes, parts of BC and Alberta are dealing with a very different forecast. This video was taken in Elkford, BC, north of Sparwood on Saturday, where residents woke up to a blast of wintry weather. And in southern Alberta, Cast Mountain Resort saw some fresh powder on the mountain. While summer snow is not uncommon for the resort, staff say it's a chilly reminder that winter is never too far away. And thank goodness we're not having extreme weather here in the Lower Mainland.
Yeah, we're just perfect. We're sitting in the low 20s. We're seeing a mix of sun and cloud out there. Gatineau saw a high of 36.6 degrees today, breaking an all-time record. So yeah, very hot there for us. This is how we fared. Here's a look at our almanac. 21.3 degrees today, slightly above the seasonal average of 19.6. The low pretty mild at 14.1. And we only have a week left in June. And so far, we've only seen 25.6 millimeters of rain, a monthly average at 51.1 millimeters, and it doesn't look like we'll see a whole lot of rain as we head into the next week. Here's a look at our satellite radar imagery. We do have another system moving its way in for the north coast and central coast, bringing some wet weather, ridge of high pressure, keeping us dry on the south coast, and this is what we can expect moving into tomorrow morning. As that low pushes its way in, you'll have a wet commute for the north coast and central coast, bringing in some showers for the northern tip of Vancouver Island through the afternoon hours, and it'll bring us cloud coverage as we head into the afternoon as well. Chance of afternoon thunder showers for the southern interior. Your provincial forecast at the bottom of your screen. Cloudy with showers for Port Hardy with a high of 15 degrees. You see mostly cloudy skies for Campbell River and Comox, a few sunny breaks and a high of 20 degrees. Few showers as well for the South Island for Tofino at 13 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. Scattered showers for Port Alberni at 20. You'll see increasing cloud coverage through the afternoon from Nanaimo right down to Victoria with temperatures between 19 and 23 degrees. Unsettled for the Sunshine Coast with a high of 20. Mostly cloudy skies up the Sea to Sky Highway. 21 for Whistler, 22 for Squamish, and for us across the Lower Mainland, we will start off sunny. Clouds return in the afternoon, 22 degrees across the board. Into Wednesday, we'll see mostly cloudy skies. Slight chance of seeing a few scattered showers, cooling down to 18. Into Thursday, overcast conditions, cool 17 degrees as we head into Friday. A mix of sun and cloud and 18, and then heading into the Canada Day long weekend. Saturday, a mix of sun and cloud, 21. Gets even warmer on Sunday. Temperatures between 23 degrees near the water, 27 degrees inland. Mostly sunny skies as we say goodbye to June with a high of 24. CTV weather brought to you by Expedia Cruises for air, land, and sea vacations. So yeah, a few sprinkles here and there, but it's looking mighty dry as we head into the last week of June.
But I think people will be happy with that weekend forecast you're showing us.
Yeah, that big weekend forecast heading into the big birthday.
All right, thanks, Anne. Many of us use search engines several times a day to find products and services, and most of the time there are no problems. However, some criminals are now creating websites that look like the real thing to try and steal your banking and personal information. Here's CTV's Pat Foran with more.
How was I supposed to know it was a scammer? I really didn't know that.
Ruth Jean of London operates her own company and needed to set up a business account with the Canada Revenue Agency. In March, she did a Google search to find the CRA's website.
And I clicked on it. It opened out. The CRA name was on there.
Jean says she was asked to put in her social insurance number and other personal information. Then she was asked for her banking details.
It asked for the card number, the ATM password, and the expiration date for the card and all that information. So I put it in. After I submit the information, the screen went blank.
Jean was on a fake spoof CRA website that looked like the real thing. Once criminals had her banking information, they emptied her bank account of more than $26,000.
You thought you were on the real PC Financial website?
Of course I did.
Earlier this year, we did a story with a senior trying to buy GICs who also got caught in a fake website scam that cost him $750,000.
I've got zero, nothing.
We reached out to Google, and a spokesperson said, when we find ads that breach our policies, we take immediate action, including removing the ads and suspending advertiser accounts when necessary.
Individuals can actually pay to have their listing right at the top, and some of those listings
are not verified, and they're what we call spoofed websites.
Cybersecurity experts say you need to make sure you're on the proper website before entering financial information. Third-party link checkers can also help detect fraud.
The easiest way is to read the URL, which is the address, the domain address, up in the browser. Make sure that it's accurate, that it's spelled accurately. Look for the padlock in the browser. That padlock means that there is a security certificate and that your information is encrypted.
Jean says she is devastated to lose her hard-earned money.
I feel sad. I feel like angry. I was just trying to sign up for a business account on CRA.
The owner of a 1951 Lincoln Cosmopolitan got a look at his royal restored ride in Edmonton this weekend. The Northern Alberta Institute of Technology says this was one of 60 convertibles the Canadian government purchased for Princess Elizabeth during a trip to Canada before she became queen. Students had been working on the restoration throughout the school year. Ron Lyons owns the car. He has worked with NAID to restore vehicles for about 20 years. He says he's impressed by the students' latest efforts.
It looks spectacular, right? Like the flying bird and with the gold and the silver. And I mean, they went right through the car. Every little piece was massaged and, you know, brought up to like an amazing level. I think the kids and the program here did an amazing job restoring it and invested a lot of time and effort. It turned out beautiful.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You don't meet a lot of people who can say they worked on a car the Queen sat in. It was nice to come to school and be like, we have the Queen's car sitting in our shop right now.
Lyons plans to drive it to car shows this summer. It will then go on display at his Golf Country Club's car museum. We've got some big news out of North Carolina with the Canucks on the verge of winning the Calder Cup, and Hamilton, Ontario's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander makes NBA history as OKC wins its first ever NBA championship. We hear from family and friends right after the break. Plus, lost and found. Adam finds out how a hiking group made a priceless discovery. Coming up on the Sawatsky Sign-Off. Right now, here's a preview of CTV Morning Live.
Canadians are spending less time with friends, especially those of working age. Tuesday on CTV Morning Live, we look at a new Statistics Canada report. Are we spending enough time with our loved ones? And getting ready to have a shucking good time. Fanny Bay Oyster Bar will show us how to properly prepare a tasty meal. Plus, the Vancouver International Mountain Film Festival. We'll speak with a local snowboarder and base jumper featured in one of this year's films. Harry's back tomorrow. See you in the morning.
News, weather, and traffic. It's everything you need. CTV Morning Live, weekdays 6 to 9.
The Abbey Canucks had another chance to win the Calder Cup tonight with Game 6 just wrapping up in Charlotte, North Carolina.
But he gets it back in the corner. Backdoor pass. Carlson scores! What a shift!
That goal by Linus Karlsson late in the second period put Abbotsford up 3-2. The game finished just moments ago, and we can tell you the Abbotsford Canucks managed to hang on for a 3-2 win, the first ever Vancouver Canucks AHL affiliate to win the Calder Cup. We'll have more on the game on CTV News at 11:30. Ontario's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander made history when the Oklahoma City Thunder captured their first NBA title last night. And as CTV's Mike Walker reports, the young Canadian has quickly become one of the league's biggest stars.
A giant image of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander proudly on display outside his former high school, Sir Alan McNabb. And there is civic pride today with the Hamilton native, now an NBA champion and finals MVP.
Considering I went to McNabb, it's amazing.
Well, I think it's great, obviously. It's good for Hamilton, and it's nice to hear a Hamilton boy winning it.
The first Canadian ever to win both.
Proud. I'm proud to be a Hamiltonian. It's like he has wings, he can fly. Like, I don't know, it's just so hard to describe. I'm just totally amazed.
SGA pulls up. Gilgeous-Alexander led the way with 29 points as the Oklahoma City Thunder won their first NBA championship, defeating the Pacers 103-91 in Game 7.
Feels amazing. So much weight off my shoulders.
I wouldn't have rather done it with any other group in the world. It feels good to be a champion.
Gilgeous Alexander now enters an elite club, becoming only the 4th player in NBA history to win league MVP, finals MVP, the scoring title, and championship, all in the same season.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, and now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So he's in great company, rare company. And look, I have seen enough to say with confidence that this is the greatest Canadian basketball player ever.
He's one of the best of all time, and the way that he's representing Canada is just unbelievable.
Tim Francis was Gilgeous-Alexander's high school basketball coach and watched the finals beaming with pride.
We saw the hard work. We saw the work ethic. Being an NBA champion, being an MVP of the finals, an MVP of the league, I don't think anybody saw that coming. But we did know that he was going to get to whatever his goals were. He was that kind of hard worker.
He says Gilgeous-Alexander's success story on and off the court is a huge inspiration for young players.
We use Shai all the time. Humble beginnings and hard work and what that can get you to, how that can pay off.
He says there will likely be a local championship celebration in the near future. Mike Walker, CTV News, Hamilton.
Pride of Hamilton. Yeah, and great news for Abbotsford, too, tonight. That was an exciting game. Okay, well, it wasn't your typical delivery, as one woman in the States got a heartfelt goodbye from her longtime UPS driver.
Hey, Mario. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you, man. I really do.
Thank you. I love you, too. Thank you.
Becca Whitney's dog's also bidding farewell to Mario on his final stop after 10 years on the route in her neighborhood. He came bearing dog treats like usual. Whitney says she'd offer him Gatorade on hot days and that they always exchanged gifts over the holidays, adding that Mario was much more than a delivery driver and became a good friend.
Sounds like a movie.
Yeah, quite a bond. I don't know the
But how much does she order? Right?
And it's because he gave her dog treats.
Yes,
there was that
plus
bond,
too.
right? Okay, Mary's here with a look ahead to tonight's news.
Mijang, we just received word from the Anmore Neighbors Community Association that the developer who is going to drastically expand housing in the village of Anmore has pulled out of a public hearing tonight. We're unsure if this means what this means for the entire development project that was supposed to build over 1,700 homes in the rural community. If it's been put on hold or if it's not going to happen at all, we'll have more at 11:30. We're trying to make some phone calls on this.
Yeah, interesting, because there was a lot of pushback from the community. Okay, thanks, Mary. Finally, a nature walk took an unexpected turn for a Vancouver Island hiking group when they uncovered a priceless piece of the past. Adam finds out how a simple discovery reconnected a family with memories from the Second World War on tonight's Encore Sawatsky sign-off.
Well, Bill Dancer searches for anything unusual during his hikes, from fungus to flowers. He sometimes finds the unexpected.
We found mostly cell phones,
which he and the members of the eccentric hikers group easily return. But this glasses case was a first.
The content was definitely unusual.
One of the eccentrics hiking that day found it contained a pair of rings and war memorabilia.
I have every respect for the military.
Bill grew up in England during the Second World War and remembers a bomb exploding near his school.
And all we heard was big bang and the ceiling came down.
So Bill knew these personal items would be priceless.
It's obviously means something to someone.
So Bill volunteered to take it to the local police station, where Constable Marcus Anastasiadis began investigating.
I wasn't going to let it go. I was very determined to find out who this was.
After noticing a bracelet featuring a barely legible last name and regimental number, Marcus found an obituary for a Lieutenant Arthur Goff, which led to reconnecting the items with the soldier's son.
This means quite a bit to us.
Jim Goff doesn't know how these items went missing during his sister's recent move, but he has no doubt his dad served at Juno Beach on D-Day.
It was one of those times of his life, I think, that he wanted to forget.
And because he barely spoke of it, these are enduring reminders of his dad's long life of distinguished service.
Quite proud of him, actually.
And Bill is grateful for all the people whose sacrifices led to the end of the war, which he remembers celebrating as a boy by racing to the local sweet shop on VE Day.
Buying as many sweets as I could, and the lady behind the counter not being too impressed.
After years of sugar rationing, it was the best candy ever.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And the best thing for Jim, why he's so grateful to the eccentric's thoughtfulness and Marcus's diligence, is having these rings returned.
Because my mom did give that to my dad just before they were married in 42.
While these pins and badges are reminders of Arthur's accomplishments during conflict, it's only the rings from his wife Olive that's a reminder of what they were actually fighting for. Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Saanich.
What a priceless find. You never
amazing.
know what you're going to end up seeing on a trail, right? Glad that they were able to reunite with the family.
Yeah, so great. All right, let's take a look at our Scenic Snapshot for tonight. Saturday's spectacular sunset in Saanich. Thanks, Sid, for sending this beautiful photo in. And we want to see your Scenic Snapshot as well. So email us at scenicsnapshot@ctv.ca. Looks like a watercolor painting.
There were a lot of S's in that. Was that like some tongue
yes, you like my alliteration?
Yeah, I do like the alliteration, and you pulled it off. All right, thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.